All right, y'all. Welcome back and happy Wednesday. Today we're going to be talking about Boo Carter because now we can talk about it, P. There's a lot of things out there. We didn't want to talk too much on YouTube with this topic, but since everyone pretty much knows, I figured that it's a good time for us to talk about what do we think the chances are that he does play for Tennessee in 2025, and if he doesn't, what's the impact to our team? Please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Now we do have some like audio clips on our Patreon, patreon.com/. Bluechip Breakdown. Y'all can go and check that out. Just talking about this topic more. We might have some more information. And since football season is starting, we'll have a lot more inside information. So y'all definitely want to check that out. But just to kind of like recap everything that's going on with Boo from, what's out there publicly is that he's missed some practices. Okay. His teammates are upset with him. And now it sounds like he's upset at his teammates. So with this whole situation, P, like, how are you feeling? Like, what are your just like opening thoughts?
I mean, it's not a good situation, obviously. I just don't think it's a good look. I mean, the fact that he's been missing stuff, hasn't been showing up, on time and stuff. Excuse me. Especially when you consider the fact that I feel like Tennessee, they gave him a raise. He's getting paid more NIL, as well as giving him the chance to play both sides of the ball, which to me seems like pretty much everything that he wanted. For him to still kind of be having these off the field things going on, it's definitely concerning. And I mean, it doesn't look good. I don't know what what he would plan on doing. I'm not, probably would miss this whole season. But to me, it just seems like with the kind of the rifts that he's made with his teammates and with the coaches, it's going to be kind of hard to come back from it unless he's willing to kind of stand up and own up to it. And then, I think the team will welcome him back. But if he doesn't do that, I don't really see a path for him back on this team.
Yeah, I think that those are excellent points. I'm about at the same spot now. Let me make sure that I say this because I've seen several people talking about it. This is not about NIL, okay? This has nothing to do with NIL. It's something totally different. And Boo Carter actually switched up his agent here recently, and I think that his agent, he's the dad of a guy that played high school basketball, P, here in Georgia, who I think he went to Auburn, then he went pro. So I know about some of his like representing basketball players, but not too much about what he's done with football players. But to your point, would it make sense for Boo to leave in this situation? Now, let me say first and foremost that it could either be the coaching staff wants to cut Boo or Boo wants to quit. Since the staff hasn't cut Boo yet, I feel like they're not going to. Like if they were going to do it, then they would have up to this point unless something happens, right? Like unless there's another incident or something, then maybe they will say, "Hey, that's the final straw." But this coaching staff that obviously had, knows this roster from top to bottom, know whatever has gone on with Boo, like everything, they're saying, "Hey, we feel like Boo is worth, that risk or whatever." So if the coaching staff feels that way, P, what do you think about what's been going on with these players? Because I think that we're both on the same page that we love the fact that there's a certain standard at this school, right? Like nobody's bigger than that power T. We've heard that for a long time. That's not new. It's always been like that. Like that's how things should operate. But at the same time, because of the way that college football is set up, do you think that maybe it's a little bit of a problem? Do you think that maybe those players pushed Boo too hard? Because the other side of it, like we talked about with the coaching staff, feels like they're not going to be cutting Boo. Maybe Boo wants to quit because he doesn't feel comfortable on this team. And it's more so based off of those players because they, whatever ended up happening, maybe they feel like, or, maybe he now feels like, hey, I don't know if I want to come into this locker room with how maybe he would look at it as toxic things have turned out to be. But what do you think about that, P? Like, do you think that maybe these players have pushed Boo too far? Do you think that maybe they should have, if you're going to put somebody, then you do it when, there's a transfer portal window coming up, right? Like you don't do it at the end of the year. Just like with the NFL, if they get into some scuffles and things like that, then it's typically preseason or it's very early on in the season where the team can overcome that. We can, hey, if this guy has to get cut or if you want to trade, then that can happen, but then we can bring in somebody else. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean the timing's definitely awful. Once again, I don't know. I mean, obviously the players, it's really it's their team, and so if someone's kind of not living up to the standard, doing the basic things like showing up to meetings and practice, things like that. I mean, yeah, the players are really the main ones that try to hold that guy accountable. What was the players' kind of perception of how Boo was acting, and kind of how disrespectful was it and things like that? But I mean, me being outside looking in, I always feel like there's a way you can de-escalate the situation. You can, you know, try to kind of talk a guy off the ledge in a way that doesn't necessarily push him out the door, right? Like I think it, like if I was Boo's teammate and I was one of the leaders trying to get him to come back or whatever, trying to get him to lock in with the team, I wouldn't necessarily attack him in a way that could potentially push him out. I would first try to understand, hey, why you missing, what's going on, what can we do to kind of help you get locked back in, because you have all potential in the world. You have a great opportunity right here. We don't want to see you blow that. And then kind of depending on how he responds to that, you kind of know, hey, this is a guy we need to get off the team. Or, hey, this is a guy, he just needs some help. We need to be here for him. So we don't really know those type of details of how this whole thing played out. So it's tough to say if the players overreacted or kind of whatever. But I do, to your point, I do think it was mainly the players that are pushing him out. I think the coaching staff, like you said, if he is missing practice and things like that, I mean, this has been going on for however long. They haven't kicked him off team yet. So I think they would be willing to bring him back. But you can't have a team that's divided. You can't have a guy that's going to be a cancer to your locker room. So I mean, it's a tough situation to be in. Hopefully we can work it out. But I would start by trying to be there for Boo and see what you can do to kind of help him get his situation straightened out.
Yeah, because Boo has so much talent on the field, but I think also just like his personality, P, he could market himself into hundreds of millions of dollars if he just locks in. And with this situation being so late, if his new agent is telling him, "Hey, we're gonna shop you," which it sounds like that has been happening. Actually, last night I saw one of the insiders brought up another program. How true that is? I mean, obviously there has to be some smoke to it if it's been thrown out there. And of course, he's talking about Coach Prom's team, and that was one of Boo Carter's finalists coming out of high school. But just saying that to say that, you know, if Boo wanted to transfer to a different program at this point, he couldn't go play football now because the transfer portal that's closed. He can't enter in, so he couldn't play this year. Maybe they would try to go to court and file a lawsuit, but I can promise y'all, and I've done several different videos that we haven't even put out just yet. But everybody in college sports, they're trying to slow down that transfer portal. That's the real problem. It's not NIL, it's that portal. So I don't think that if he goes to court, that they're going to let that fly. So he's probably not going to be able to play for one full season. And then whatever he got paid, I'm sure that there's a buyout in his contract, and he's going to have to pay back some of it, or the new institution that he's going to will have to pay all of it or some of it, whatever. But there are just so many different moving pieces to it. It wouldn't make sense for, like you said, P. This, Tennessee gave him, hey, you can play offense, defense, special teams. Starts as a true freshman. He wanted a raise, got the raise. I mean, we've done everything that he's asked of us. I think that he does need to show up. He just needs to lock in. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. But at the same time, though, if the coaching staff who runs this team, if they're saying we don't, we can figure things out, do the players have that right to overstep the coaches? Because then all of a sudden you're talking about losing a locker room. I mean, if the coaches don't have like the reign over these players, do you think that that could be an issue?
That's an interesting kind of thought. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, the players that make up your team, right? And you do want a team that's led by the players, not necessarily by the coaches. I mean, I just don't see a scenario where the team is kind of out on Boo, like they're done with him, but the coach is overstepping and say, "Hey, listen, we need this guy, bring him back," because I just feel like it wouldn't work. It'd be toxic for Boo, like you said, and toxic for the whole team. So, I mean, if the players are out at the end of the day, those are guys that are out there playing, executing for you, and all that stuff. This is really their team. So, I mean, I think they do pretty much have the final say, in my opinion. But I mean, at this point, like you said, in the off season, you can't really even transfer. Like you're gonna have to sit out a year, miss out on all that money for a year. If you're gonna do this, why wouldn't you just kind of sit on it and then do it next portal window if you're gonna do
There
it?
it
You know
is.
what I'm saying? Like, why do it now? So there's just a lot of moving parts. For me, I would love to be able to talk to Boo and kind of understand why, because I think it's probably something going on much deeper than just football as to why
Yeah.
he's been missing and things like that.
He's not being led right. You know what I'm saying? Like, what logical sense would it make for him to leave at this point? Because, P, to your point, just wait out this season, see how things play out. And then if you still don't like it, then you transfer, because at that point, it looks better for you moving forward. It's not just looks better, but you can also play. Like, you get this whole season where you can still play. You're in a great situation. And then you have more suitors in that next window. This is what I would tell to UP. This is what I would tell to my nephews, to my son, to my friends, to anybody, just because, and it wouldn't matter what team that they're playing for. This is not about me being a Tennessee fan. It would be a really stupid business move for him to just up and leave at this point because he has nowhere to go. So just based off of those things, P, I feel like Boo might want to leave right now. Okay, I think that it's something that can get worked out. If I think that if he could, if everything lined up, if there was a transfer portal window that he could enter into right now, I think that Boo would leave. But I don't think that he will be able to leave. I don't think that the staff is going to kick him off the team. And for those reasons, I think that he ultimately will be part of this team in 2025. But what do you think about it?
Man, I mean, I don't know. I hope you're right, and it does make sense. I think he probably needs some time to kind of cool off and kind of settle down. Like, just take some time and just let the emotions kind of fade away and make a rational decision. And I think if he does that, yeah, he probably would want to come back. And like I said earlier, maybe he will try to come out in front of the team and say, hey, sorry about everything, whatever. Because I mean, he's a freaking huge loss. I mean, I was just talking to my wife about this yesterday. I was like, we just freaking lost our arguably our best offensive player, young prospect in Nico, right? We lost him late in the offseason deal. And then now potentially a guy you could argue our best defensive player. I mean, you can definitely I could definitely go stand before a jury or whatever and plead my case as to Boo Carter being our best defensive player. True freshman last year, did what he did. So, it would be a huge loss for this team. So I hope that we can get this thing worked out.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely up there. I don't know if I would personally say that he's the best, but this is Tennessee's wide receiver room. Obviously, Boo Carter, he's still up there. If he leaves, the impact to this room is we only have 7 scholarship guys, but it's still 100% blue chip ratio. So it's all players that can play. Boo would be new to playing wide receiver on this level, but he's a veteran. So I think that there's kind of something to be said about that. There's a lot of guys that will have to play this season, whether Boo comes or, whether he leaves or stays, that they're just going to be brand new and they're going to have to figure things out. But it obviously takes away depth from this room. I think personally that you look at the walk-on guys. I mean, some of them will also have to step up because you probably need really like 10 wide receivers on your roster, especially for a long season. If you want to make a playoff push, that's kind of what you're looking at. But I don't think the Boo is going to play too much on offense anyway, but just enough that it kind of balances things out. But what do you see his impact being if he does ultimately leave from this room?
Well, I mean, we don't know necessarily the health situation of Amari Jefferson. So he was a guy that, even though he doesn't really have any experience, he's been in college for a year. So this will be his second year in college. Like, he'd be probably your second option at the slot behind Braylon Staley. And then, now you're looking at a true freshman, right? It was going to be Boo mixing in there some. And, Amari, it's probably going to be mainly Braylon Staley, Amari Jefferson, and Boo Carter as your slots. Now you're looking at, I don't know who. I don't know if it's going to be Dotson's going to have to freaking get some playing time, or if we're going to, rah-rah, or, maybe we do something, maybe Travis Smith can bump out to, wide, and you can bring Mike Matthews into the slot. I don't know what they're going to do there, but it makes you have to move some pieces around. So, I mean, I think it is a significant deal because he's a guy that obviously has a lot of special ability on the offensive side of the ball, talking about Boo Carter, and, losing him, I mean, that hurts on both sides of the ball. So it's kind of almost like losing 2 players in one.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about defense, okay? And these are some stats from PFF. These are Tennessee's really just the whole defense in coverage. And I think this is mostly like secondary players. Might be a linebacker here somewhere. But from 2023 and 2024, this is the column here that'll show you all the years and all of that. This is obviously the players' names. This column is how we have things ordered. It's just based off of who had the best coverage over those past couple of seasons. So we see that Haddon was actually number 1, and then we have Jermod McCoy at 47.1%. To me, P, he's probably the best player on Tennessee's defense when he's back. And I think that you're probably saying, he's not going to be back for like those first few games. But outside of him, I mean, there might be a couple of other players too. But yeah, I mean, this defense should be fun. Either way, y'all can see, and this is interesting too, P. The Tank is third right here at 48%, which is kind of crazy. That was in his that was in 2023. So yeah, that was his last year with Tennessee. And then let's see. So Boo was all the way down here at number 10. So he was at 64.3%, playing at what I would like to call, P, the hardest position maybe on this whole team, like outside, well, I would say maybe even harder than quarterback, just with Tennessee's system, because quarterback's always hard, but it's not going to be that difficult. Playing star, you have to mentally, physically, everything. It is extremely strenuous. So Boo coming in as a true freshman, getting that start and playing like this, if we were to look at the rest of the SEC, he would be up at the top. Like he's going to be like way up there versus some of these other players. So I think that he looks good from that standpoint, and then we can scroll down. So T Mac played star too, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Okay, so T Mac, he was at 75.6%, right? And that was his last season with us. And then all the way down here, I don't remember, did Wesley Walker, I know that he played safety. Did he ever play at star?
I don't remember him playing star. He might have, but I don't think he did.
Okay, and so then we also we have Christian Harrison. This is from last year, 76.2%. I know that Slaughter, he played some star for us. He was at 80%, which is pretty much terrible. And then we also, I think that might be it, P, for all the players that played at star. So actually, Boo, he had the best numbers from our star players over these past couple of seasons. Now, who do you think, just kind of like looking at this list here briefly, P, because we will also look at the, like depth charts and things like that. Who do you think could maybe play some star if Boo leaves? I'm looking right here at my dog, J Mac.
Yeah, me too. He's got to be your number one guy. The only kind of issue is you're without Dramod McCoy, so now you're probably looking at your corners would be Ricky Gibson and then the guy we got from Colorado, Hood. But I think if the staff was good enough about Hood, and maybe even some of the freshmen behind him, then yeah, I would definitely say J Mac would be your number one option there at star. But don't forget about a guy who's, I don't see him on his list, but maybe a guy like Caleb Beasley, who we've kind of touched on, is I kind of see his body type and the way he moves as a prototypical star type player. He's kind of just like a shorter stride type of guy, kind of a quicker twitch type of guy. I can see him potentially being star, but then, how do you feel about your stages at that point? So it puts us in a tough spot, you know what I mean? But I would, my number one option for me would be McMurray. I think definitely.
Yeah, I think that he's my number one option too. Like we've talked about at Star, you want to bring in guys that are kind of like veterans because you have to know so much. It is a very, very tough place for young guys to come in and play, which speaks to how special Boo Carter actually is. But just looking at this Star room, J Mac, number one, I think that Marcus Gorey, he could be a very good option. I think that he could play anywhere in Tennessee secondary. Both of those freshmen, I really like those guys. Now, looking at them versus Boo, all these players are going to be taller, probably a little bit longer. I think that the coverage is going to take a little bit of a step back with all of these guys. Obviously, it's going to vary based off of who you're talking about. So, J Mac, I think that it would probably come down. We'll just say if Boo Carter's coverage was at like a 93, I'd put him at about like an 88. With Marcus Gorey, I'd say very, very similar from that standpoint. Both of those players will also be very physical. Boo is a dog. He's very, very physical. And then with those freshmen, I could see them maybe being a little bit better in their coverage, okay, but not as physical. So that's the trade-off there, P. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on. You obviously you like Jalen Murray, guys played corner. But I mean, like we talk about all the time, playing that inside corner, if you will, in that star position, it's a whole different ball game. It's a two-way go. You're going to be a lot of times kind of like in a catch technique where you're about 5-6 yards off your guy and you're kind of almost not flat-footed, but you're almost like staying in one spot, catching them. Like it's a different technique as opposed to corner where you're pedaling, you're moving with the guy. Like it's just a whole different ball game. So yeah, I mean, I would have Boo up there, mid 90s type of guy in terms of coverage. But yeah, the rest of these guys, I don't know if any of these other guys are even at a 90 quite yet. Now I will say Marcus Goree didn't really see him a ton last year live. But I know just going back to this high school film, him and Boo Carter, they looked very similar out there. Like, I mean, I think they were like similar numbers. I think one was like number 1, the other one was like number 6 or something. Like you almost couldn't even tell who was who sometimes. Now, I'm not saying that Marcus is Boo Carter in terms of the way he moves, but I think he is somewhat similar. So I could see him potentially being a guy that, I mean, could do it. I mean, he's got a good length, 6'1". I feel like he's grown since he's been there. I don't think he came in that tall. He got really good size, 6'1", probably like 190. I would love to see him there, and we know he's physical. But I think, like to your point, the freshmen, we love those guys. but they are true freshmen. They got to learn everything. It's a whole lot of, opportunity to make mistakes. But then, like you said, the physicality portion of it, it's kind of rare to see a guy like Blue Carter come as a true freshman and be as physical as he was and be able to impact the run game and do some things like he did. So, I mean, it's going to be tough for those freshmen to really make some noise, I think, in that position because we rely on that star to almost be like a backer. It's like a backer safety corner hybrid. It's got to be able to do it all.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's a very special individual to be able to play that position.
Yeah, and
So, I mean,
so let me also bring this up because we just looked at the stats with our secondary players. J Mac, his numbers were from him playing at outside corner. It wasn't from him playing star. There were some times last year where he lined up playing in that slot, but he was really playing corner. There is a little bit of a difference there with the scheme and what you're asked to do. I think that he could do it, like what he said. Biggest thing for me though, P, is that Tennessee is so much deeper now at star than what we have been previously. I mean, it's like not even close. Even last year, we weren't as deep as I feel like, well, we will be in 2025, even if Boo's not part of this team. So let's also talk about corners here. Anybody from this list? So Colton Hood, he would be the first person that I talk about. But I think that if Boo leaves, Colton Hood is starting at corner, like outside corner, and then it's also going to be Ricky Gibson. So I said that if Booth stayed, then it would be Colton Hood and J Mac splitting time playing at outside corner. But the reason, P, that I like J Mac playing at star better than him playing at outside corner over Colton Hood is because Colton Hood, to me, he just feels more natural playing on that outside. He did play some slot, kind of like star at his previous school. I think that he looked good there, but he just looked better playing outside corner. So you have to move some things. But actually, I think that like coverage wise, if we're just talking about Colton Hood playing at star, I think that his coverage would actually be better than anyone that we've talked about up to this point, obviously outside of Boo. But just looking at this list here, P, what do you think?
you know what? I mean, I just had a crazy thought. I don't know why I haven't thought of this before, and heck, it's definitely out of this world. I mean, how do you feel about taking a guy like Jermon McCoy and throwing him in there? Now, listen, he's your best cover guy. I think he's physical enough, experienced guy. I mean, he's probably the best athlete probably on the entire team. I
Yeah.
mean, I think you put out a list a little while ago. I think he's number one. I mean, he's probably the best athlete on the entire team. I mean, he's a guy that I feel pretty good. Like, if you want to say he's like a 96 overall at corner, he's probably right around that same number at star.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, do you say, okay, well, let's roll Ricky Gibson, Jalen Murray as your two corners, Colton Hood comes off the bench. Um, I mean, we'll see if the staff will consider something like that, and if Jermon McCoy will be willing to do it because he's probably the best returning corner probably in all of college football. So does he want to risk moving inside, maybe hurting his stock? I think it could actually help his draft stock, even showing he can do multiple things. So that's interesting to kind of think about. Now I know he's going to miss some time probably early in the season, but I mean, he would be a guy. Honestly, I would take a strong look at him inside the star.
Yeah. So he probably won't be back till like week 3. But yeah, I definitely think that he could do it for sure. What does that do to the structure of your defense though? Because do you feel like it would be as like solid with the outside corners? Because I mean, shoot, last year, and we feel like heading into this season too, that Tennessee could literally just, hey, we're gonna man up outside and let this like help those safeties, help those backers, and now we also need to help out stars. So yeah, but I could definitely see that happening. So are you saying that you feel like Colton Hood or one of these other guys, they could do a good enough job playing outside corner, and then move some bodies that we could still kind of do what we thought that we would do with this defense, and maybe even on a higher level.
I think so, man. I mean, I think I mean the way these corners have been playing lately, like you look at Ricky Gibson, McMurray. I mean, on the way these guys have been playing lately, like one of the things you look at kind of previously, maybe before this staff got here, like we would be getting beat on digs and things like that. Like these guys do a great job of driving on routes. There's not much separation, not much space. They can test things. They get in your face. And they also don't really let the ball get behind them. So I think we're doing a good job coaching it, whether that's Willie Moe or maybe kind of somebody else behind the scenes that's coaching these guys up. I think we're being coached well enough. I feel like we've had good enough athletes there for a long time. We've looked at the room and said, man, we got a whole bunch of guys that we think can play, but they didn't really perform. I think now you're starting to see these guys perform up to their talent level. So yeah, I think you look at it that way. Knowing these guys will get coached up the right way, I feel confident in Colton Hood being a guy that can go out there, play outside corner, can cover a curl route, can cover a dig route, can cover an out route, can stay on top of a route. And then you factor in, we think our backers will be better in coverage this year. Now you're kind of showing up some of those zones, and there's going to be less space to throw. So, I mean, yeah, I definitely feel like, because to me, I mean, I think you can definitely make an argument that Star is maybe the most important position on the team. I mean, like, typically teams want to get to their slot guy, right? 3rd and 5. Let's get to our little slot guy, get him across the middle, whatever. You want a guy there that you can trust. That we talk about man up on the outside. You want to be able to man up on the inside too with that slot guy and not have to help him. So I would rather have my best guy there and let kind of some of these other guys cover the outside.
Yeah, and then so I was actually just thinking too. Do you feel like maybe Tennessee would play more zone now if Boo Carter leaves because that star player means so much and you would have to help him out? But just like looking at all of our players, P, I feel like we have so many guys that can play man on just a much higher level than what we had seen in previous years. Like looking at those two freshmen down there, I like both of those guys too, and having that length playing at star that helps out with some of the different route combinations and things like that too. Now
Mhm.
let's talk about this safety room because I think that this is probably where the biggest impact does come from. Just because this room is so short-handed, I was actually thinking, Pete, that Boo could maybe even just because maybe we have enough people who could play star at a pretty high level that maybe if safety's not working out, you let Boo Carter play at safety. And that really shores things up on a totally different level. But Caleb Beasley, I think he's going to have to stick here. Love him playing at star. We saw him in spring, looked really good there. William Wright, he's a guy who I think that his real spot is at star or maybe his outside corner, but I moved him here to the safety room just based off of his size and because he's an older guy. Sidney Walton, I mean, he's going to have to play some at safety probably, but he's just really, really young. I don't see him playing at star. I don't think he's one of those types of guys. I think he's just a true safety. But yeah, I think that this is more so because we don't have that depth here. That this is maybe what gets impacted the absolute most. But what do you think about that?
That's a good point about William Wright. I forgot that is his primary position. So but he's a guy that probably would factor in more at star. So he might not even be considered in this room. You know what I mean? So now you're looking at basically 3 guys that have even sniffed the field before, and then two true freshmen like we talked about. Caleb Beasley as a guy potentially could be a star type body. So then, I mean, that really just razor thins out your safety room here. So safety's in a tough spot. I mean, I like the potential upside of some of these guys and what they could potentially be, but I mean, it's going to be a huge unknown until this unit is tested. Now, I will say we were unsure about last year. Will Brooks. Now Will Brooks. I mean, but go back and watch the film on him. I mean, I'll go back and watch film on him. I mean, he rarely ever did anything wrong. I mean, he rarely did. And I've said this before. I'll say it again in case you guys missed it. He had some of the best change direction I've seen. Like he did not take false steps. I mean, I was watching, I think the highlights you posted when you were doing your DB room breakdown the other day. It was a play, I think, against Florida where Will Brooks kind of rolls down. The ball's kind of snapped as he's moving. So he ends up kind of like trying to go and like he man turns with the guy. But then like his instincts kicked in, maybe film study, whatever, it kicked in. And he just cut on the route. He couldn't even see the route, just broke on the route, breaks it up. It was like 3rd and 5, just a huge play. Like he was better than I still think he was better than we even think. You know what I mean? Like he was a really good player. So it's gonna be tough to replace him. You know what I mean? So you lose him, you lose all those other guys, you lose Boo. I mean, I don't know, man. This safety room is definitely going to be something to watch this fall.
Yeah, I mean, having veterans, right? Like especially playing at safety. And you don't always necessarily have to be a vet, but you have to know football, like on a very high level. That's not one of those spots where you're just like a basic understanding. You really need to know it. I think that we do have some young players inside of that room that do understand it very well. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough. I'm on the same page with you. But last thing that we'll talk about here, just very very quickly, P, is special teams. Do you think that Tennessee's going to take a step back with special teams if Boo Carter leaves?
I mean, probably, yeah, probably. I mean, he's a special guy. Now we got a ton of guys. Do you see a Dwayne Morris step up? I mean, we got Braylon Staley as well. I mean, we got a bunch of return type bodies and return type guys. But I mean, Boo was special, man. He's one of those special guys that I mean, I think if he would have stayed for 3 years, he probably would have set some type of records. You know what I'm saying? Like he'd be a guy that teams that don't kick to. You know what I'm saying? Like I think he's that type of guy. We'll see who can emerge, but I would say, yeah, I do think they take a step back in that.
Okay,
position.
so I actually don't. I actually think that we're going to be fine there, and I think that you're definitely right about Boo. He is special, but I think that we got some other players there that could maybe replicate what he did for us last year. And I try not to look too much at what he did last year. Like I know that we looked at his numbers, But one of the things that I didn't say is that what he was at like 66%, and actually we can pull that back up so that I can show y'all what I'm talking about. So we were at 60, or he was at what, like 65%? Yeah, so 64.3%. I would think that this year he would be up close to maybe like 52%, like close to lower 50s. But kind of like a similar point about him on special teams. I think that he would take that step forward, but I think that Tennessee's going to be fine. You know what I mean? Like I maybe take a step back, P, but I think that
Mhm.
Tennessee will be fine. Really, overall, to me, this is not. I'm not as worried, and I want to hold on to Boo. I hope that we find a way to hold on to him. I hope that he changes his mind. If he is thinking about leaving, but I think that this is less of a deal than when Nico left, and we have more time when Nico left. But losing your quarterback, even though I think Stars may be more difficult to play, I don't know. And P, I know that you're saying that you feel like it's maybe the most like the biggest impact spot, but I actually still kind of feel like quarterback is probably tougher just because or it might mean more for this team just because we don't have as
Oh yeah.
many options at quarterback, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. Quarterback definitely is your number one position. You know what I mean? Like that's your number one position. But as far as defensively, I would say Star. To me, I mean because we ask Star do so much, and having Boo in there at Star, something we haven't had in a long time. A guy can really truly cover up, man up with anybody like that. I think that really opened up the defense a lot. And I mean, he's a guy you hear, Tim Banks and Willie Moe talking about it. The Stars actually do so many different things in terms of like helping us get into the right coverage and things like that, like with checks and stuff like that. And Boo is a true freshman, so I don't even know how much he was involved with that.
Yeah.
But you figure him being a guy to play all last season, coming into year two, he's going to be able to add so much more value in that aspect of it too. Like, and that's what I was getting at when I said I could argue that he was the best player. I think you factor in him being a true freshman last year,
Yeah.
and not saying he was the best, but you factor those things in, and then what you expect him to be this year. Like, I mean, dude, he was going to be he's like a top 10 first DB drafted type of prospect. So definitely hate to lose him if we do lose him.
Yeah. So that's gonna do it, y'all. I personally feel like Boo's gonna be part of this team in 2025, and if he's not, I think that it's a loss. But I don't think it's a huge enough loss that we say, hey, Tennessee's gonna lose games based off this. I think that we have enough players that we can figure it out. P, where are you at with, do you think that Boo will be part of this team? And then what is your final thoughts on what's the overall impact?
I mean, my gut tells me that he won't be. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think he's going to be part of this team. And the impact, it's going to be something that I think it will show up from time to time. We'll be watching the game and say, dang, I sure wish that was Boo covering that route, or dang, I wish that was Boo that had, that punt return, whatever. But to your point, definitely in the return game, I mean, we'll be good enough. Like if we were like a 97 with Boo, we only dropped down like a 92 without him. Like we're still good, but we could have been even better. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Same thing with Star. We go from like a 95 to maybe like a high 80, maybe a low 90. So still good, but we could have been even better. We're always gonna be the best we can be. But I think we'll be fine overall.
Okay, cool. All right then, y'all. That's gonna do it. Please leave your thoughts down in the comment section, and as always, please do make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. We'll be talking to y'all later on. Thanks. Peace. Thanks for watching, and please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel because that keeps us growing inside of the YouTube algorithm. And if you did like this video, here's another one that you might also enjoy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.